Hey folks, well, it's finally getting warmer where I live, and that means more meals out on the back deck. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of making 10 trips carrying plates, condiments, cutlery, and everything else I need to have a nice peaceful meal on the back porch. So, today I'm putting together a quick tray that's going to help me save a bunch of time and a bunch of frustration. We have some old maple hardwood flooring that I've been saving on this shelf for far too long, and this is the perfect project for it. If you've ever run hardwood flooring through a planer, you know that it's a real pain in the butt to get that finish off. But free material's free material. Once we get that cleaned off and both sides parallel and flat, we're going to cut them down to pieces based on how wide we want this tray to be. My initial measurements worked out that I wanted about 24 inches by 13 inches on the inside of the tray to fit all the things I want to fit. We can cut off the tongues and rip the boards down. I'm aiming for about 2-inch wide slats here, and I'm going to use those to make both the bottom slats of the tray as well as the two side rails. The two short sides where I'm going to put the handles are going to be 4 inches tall. Once we have all the pieces laid out how we like them, we label them and then begin measuring for joinery. I'm using a fixture I built for my just doweling jig so that I can repeatedly drill the same holes in the same spots in all these pieces. Once you set up one piece in the correct location and set the stops, all you have to do is switch out each piece and drill the holes quickly without having to recheck, remeasure, realign. It's very fast, and I'll put a link to my video showing how I built this up above and in the description. When doing this, I am being careful to make sure that I always keep the downside of the tray up against the fence of the doweling jig. The reason for this is that I want to reference off the bottom of the tray for the slats, and then I'll reference off the bottom when I do the side pieces that have the handles as well. You can see here, as I put the second slat in, I didn't have to measure or check or do anything like that. All I do is slide it into the doweling jig and drill the holes. It's as easy as that. One thing I am doing, however, is I'm taking a pencil and just making a quick mark on each slat as to where the center line of the doweling jig ends up on it. I'll use this later just when I need to put the corresponding mark onto the mating piece. You'll understand a bit more clearly when I get to that point. With all the slats drilled, you can see I'm taking that center line we added onto the slat pieces and I'm transferring that onto the mating pieces. In this image, I've actually flipped over the tray, and these are the bottom of the slats that you're looking at. When you transfer the dowel lines over, just continue the line with the square, and then you can use that in the doweling jig to make the mating holes. Something else I'm doing is actually shifting the fence on the doweling jig by about 1/8 of an inch. I had it set to 3/8 when I was making the holes in the slats, and now I've moved it to 1/2 inch for making the holes on the bottom. The reason for this is I want to offset the slats so they're not completely flush on the bottom of the handles or on the bottom of the side pieces. The main reason for this is that I plan to have a 1/8 inch roundover on all the pieces, and by setting the slats up by 1/8 of an inch, the roundover won't meet the square edge of the slat. Again, I'll show you what I mean by this when the whole project is assembled at the end. I'm just working my way through the two handle pieces and drilling all of the mating holes for these slats. Again, the doweling jig makes this real quick and everything's going to line up really nicely. I've assembled the two vertical side pieces and I'm just marking on the handle boards where those end up. Now, in hindsight, I think my final result would have been better if I had taken some time to make a template out of some 1/4 inch plywood and then stuck it on here and used a pattern bit. But I thought that since I was only doing one tray and only had to do two pieces, I would just mark everything out manually and drill it out and cut it out. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. I measure my hand to see how big of an opening I need, and I'm going to use a 1-inch Forstner bit. You can see I've marked my curves, you've marked the center lines for the Forstner bit, and now it's just a matter of taking it to the drill press and drilling out the holes. You're going to want to go slowly here and make sure you have support behind the piece so that the Forstner bit doesn't blow out the back of your workpiece. I'll continue these cuts with the table saw. If you are unsure about your confidence using a table saw in this manner, then just use a jigsaw. I'm going to use a jigsaw to do my curves, and honestly it would have been just fine to use that to do the entire cut. The problem with cutting these out manually and using the Forstner bit and the jigsaw is there's a fair amount of hand sanding I'm going to have to do to clean all this up. That's why I think if I had made a template and then used the router bit, the curves would have been perfect. It would have just been a matter of sanding out the burn marks. But in this situation, I'm actually trying to flatten out and sort of finesse the curves with sandpaper. Again, it takes a bit of work, it's not the end of the world, but the template probably would have been worth it. Here, I'm connecting the two holes for the handle, and once that's done, it's going to Sandtown. I found the best way was to wrap some sandpaper around a piece of dowel and use that to get into all the curves and all the tight places and really get everything cleaned up. Once I was happy with how the handles looked, I moved over to the router table and put a 1/8 inch round over on all the pieces that needed it, as well as the slats. The 1/8 inch round over on the wood felt really comfortable in my hand, and since this is a tray and you're going to be carrying it, you want to make sure that it is comfortable in your hand. With that finished, I definitely went back and did a whole bunch more sanding, cleaned up all the pieces, tidied up anything that I missed before, and then prepared to glue it up. Typically in these situations, I like to glue the dowels into the shallower hole. So since the end pieces here only have about a 1/2 inch hole and the long slats have about a 1 inch hole for the dowels, I'm gluing all of the dowels into the handle pieces that have the 1/2 inch hole. It also makes things a bit easier if you sort of prepare all of your dowels if you can like this. The glue starts to tack up quick. I have been meaning to get some slow drying glue for a long time and I have not done it yet, and one day it's going to bite me in the butt. But I just make this glue up in the nick of time. So, with all of the dowels glued into our handles, then we can apply glue to our slats, smash those down into one handle, and then have a real fun time trying to align all the slats together as we push the other handle down on top of it. This is definitely one of those times where it would have been very helpful to have a second person giving me a hand with aligning these different pieces, but I do eventually get it together. And if you're going to smash on your project with a steel hammer, do make sure you have a sacrificial board in between your project and the hammer. Hey, speaking about smashing, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the project. And with everything roughly together, I put it in between some pipe clamps and used those to draw it in the rest of the way. There was a good amount of squeeze out, so I knew my job was done. Here you can see the reason for that 1/8 inch offset. The slats are a bit above the bottom of the tray and that round over doesn't interfere. My choice of finish for the project is simply some butcher block mineral oil. Two reasons for it. One, the only dirt that's going to end up on this tray should be the occasional food scrap or a drop of mustard. And two, I actually really like what maple looks like with just mineral oil put on it. I sort of like how it gets a bit darker in the sheen level, and this finish is also very easy to repair or reapply if I need it. A food safe finish is definitely not necessary for this project. I'm just using it because it's what I had on hand, but you can feel free to use pretty much anything you like. It's all going to work just fine because the tray again shouldn't be getting hammered on too hard. And I've actually used this tray at least 4 times since I've made this video, and I love it. It saves me so much work. I love how it looks. I love how it came out. It's strong. It feels good in the hand. So what are you waiting for? Go make yourself one. Thanks and have a nice day.